Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Mike Elko, the Texas A&M Aggies make a statement Saturday afternoon, and they took the lead in this football game, didn't look back, and by far the most complete performance we've seen from this Texas A&M team in 2024. But I'd argue this is one of the more impressive Texas A&M performances that we've seen in a really long time. Now, I got to start and say, like, hand up, I kind of missed on the quarterback situation, right? A lot of y'all who've been rocking with the boys for the last couple of weeks know, yeah, I was kind of all in on Marcel Reed, thinking he was the best fit for this Texas A&M offense. I give Mike Elko and Coach Colin Klein a ton of credit. Like, it probably is not easy to go back to a quarterback after Marcel Reed wins three straight for you. That's what they did. And Conor Weigman was excellent. And what we'll say about this, we'll kind of dive deeper in. If you get that performance from Conor Weigman, if you get that performance from the offensive line, and that performance from the playmakers on the outside, this Texas A&M team has a very high ceiling. It is going to be a legit threat, not only in the SEC, but in the college football playoffs. That was a college football playoff team that we just saw against Missouri. Fired up to get into this one now. Before we do, and as always, one to the Texas A&M fans, number one, appreciate all the support y'all have shown the boys. It's been a blast talking this team since Mike Elko has taken over. The amount of support y'all continue to show means the absolute world. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, biggest takeaways, let it fly in the comments section. Dill, I'll give you the T-box here. I think we got to start with Conor Weigman. What stood out to you about this Texas A&M offense?
I mean, he looked the way I think we wanted or thought he was going to look coming in, where the ball was coming out really quickly. He was making good decisions. Only had the one throw that kind of made you want to pull your hair out, leaving it over the middle to that. I think it was something out to the boundary.
Yeah, shout out Terry Bussey, though. That was like one of those plays that maybe could have got Missouri back in it. Terry Bussey, former defensive, or was recruited to be a defensive back, making a play on that. That was huge. But yeah, outside of that, he was flawless almost.
And it was just, again, the ball was getting out early. They were hitting some plays down the field, which I think was big. And obviously, I don't know that was all Weigman, because obviously Jade Walker makes a big play. Noah Thomas made a couple of nice plays. So, again, their ability to kind of open that field up, and it certainly did feel like there was a little bit more underneath room for not only the rushing attack, but also some pass catchers working their wide receivers out of the boundary. So I think you do see what Weigman adds versus Marcel Reed is you do need to be much more accountable for stuff in that deep intermediate portion of the field.
Yeah, and shout out to Texas A&M fans that respectfully disagreed with my takes on the quarterback situation. Like, that's what they were talking about. Like, if Marcel Reed's kind of limited in terms of what he can do attacking the deeper third, when you have that element, like, you're all of a sudden creating space not only in the short intermediate route trees, but you're also creating a lot of space for this rushing attack as well. That's how you wanted this offense to look. Now, my takeaways for Conor Weigman, again, great decision-making. That's been a lack of consistent thing for Conor Weigman during his career. Again, you said it best. Only put the football in harm's way one time. The accuracy was some next-level stuff. Like, when he had a clean pocket, he was not missing very many throws. I think another thing that I really liked is how he dealt with pressure. Like, we kind of knew Mizzou would try to heat Texas A&M up, and one, shout out the offensive line. We're going to get to them. I thought they were phenomenal, both in the run game and pass pro. But when Missouri did decide to send some second-level defenders, like, Conor Weigman was really good at identifying where that pressure is coming from and getting the ball out quick. Like, we all know Conor Weigman's got the arm talent. I think the question was, can he put it together between the years? We saw him do that against the Missouri defense.
Also making some of those plays with his legs. I mean, it's not just identifying getting the ball out quickly. He was obviously doing that, but that's where I feel like almost like that Marcel Reed conversation. Weigman is a good enough athlete. He's certainly not the guy who's going to be as creative in the rushing attack itself, but he's still going to pick you up some of the, like, one, two, three of those third and longs a game, and that's kind of all you need from him if he's going to throw the ball away.
I loved how he used his legs. He was really comfortable in the pocket, like manipulating the pocket, stepping up, and then when it was time to go make a play with his legs, like, you saw this kid's a good athlete. Like, they're not going to be too many design runs with Conor Weigman, but when he's asked to kind of use his legs, he certainly can do so. Dill, second storyline here, and this is kind of my second point of why I was kind of on the Marcel Reed hype train, or not hype train, but more of like the Marcel Reed fits this Texas A&M offense better. Is I haven't been that impressed with the Texas A&M pass catchers to start the 2024 year. They were awesome. And Noah Thomas, the Texas A&M fans were pounding the table for this cat. pretty much all offseason long. He's phenomenal. You're getting Terry Bussey more involved in this offense. Having Barber back's huge. Yeah, well, I think there was 14 guys that caught footballs from Conor Weigman. You saw these pass catchers, one, create some separation, but I think more importantly, like, go make plays for your quarterback when the football's in the air. You saw these pass catchers do that, and that's huge for Texas A&M fans because, again, that's another conversation where there is some talent in that room. You want to see them put it together. You saw Conor Weigman and the pass catchers put it together in a massive way. You couldn't have wanted anything more if you're a Texas A&M fan for this offense.
It was nice to see so many guys get back involved. And Jade Walker,
Yes.
he had kind of a slow start. A guy, I think we were, especially after the end of the last season in
Another super talented cat.
really, really good. He was making plays. So again, the ball was getting really worked around the field really effectively. I think that you kind of said it. I mean, that is the prototypical way. If A&M plays that way on offense, they're going to be really good. And I think that inherently starts with their offensive line. I think it's time to get to them because, like, we can't talk about this without saying, like, how much more. I mean, how much better that unit is, not only physically, but their ability to pick up blitzes, pick up stunts. Like, those were just things you pretty much could set your watch. You knew Texas A&M wasn't going to deal with that type of stuff well at all. You look today; they were really doing it. I can't say enough.
Shout out Adam Cushing. Like, that was just this Texas A&M offensive line. You can just tell they're so much better coached. And you said it first. Like, one, the communication from the front five. Like, there's not a lot of free runners coming at Conor Weigman, where you go back to 2023 was an absolute disaster in terms of Texas A&M offensive linemen knowing how to pick up blitzers. I think secondly, Dill, they ran the football exceptionally well. And that, if you're Texas A&M, like, you want to see a balanced offense. This is not going to be an offense where Conor Weigman's throwing for 400 yards a game. You want to have that balance. Le'Veon Moss ran the rock hard. We're going to talk about him. Thought this offensive line was extremely physically imposing along the line of scrimmage. And Dill, they were having so much success with some of those outside zone concepts, which, look, I think makes Le'Veon Moss. That's the best concept for Le'Veon Moss. Like, when he has the ability to really stick his foot in the ground and then start getting upfield. You saw this rushing attack. Well, Le'Veon Moss goes 12 carries for $138, averaging almost 12 yards per carry. That's exactly the stat line you're looking for if you're a Texas A&M fan.
And he was awesome. I thought E.J. Smith played good. I thought Amari Daniels, like, they're really deep there still. I know after the Reuben Owens injury, I feel like that started to come up as a question. I mean, this is still a really, really good running back room. And I think Le'Veon Moss's emergence as a guy who can hit big, explosive plays, I think it's a big deal because I think that's what at least we thought Reuben Owens was going to be for this team.
But also his ability to just be a hammer in terms of staying efficient with the run game.
Well, but that's what I thought he did that really well last year, frankly.
Yes.
All those big hitters, and you look this year, I think he's kind of picked that game up a little bit. Like that play coming right out of half. I mean, that really was I don't think that was it. That was it for Mizzou. When he hit that play, they had no.
They hit with that Utah center in the transfer portal. Like, that was kind of a late addition. Bryce Foster leaves. It's hard to hit on offensive linemen. Like, let's just be frank about it. There's not a ton of good offensive linemen that are available in the transfer portal. Like, both transfer offensive linemen that are playing for Texas A&M, I would throw Reed Adams in there. Like, it's impressive how good a football they're playing now. Flipping over to the defensive side of the football, Missouri had 254 total yards. I believe they only had like 100 at half. Like, a lot of those yards kind of came in garbage time. At least in my opinion, the most fascinating matchup that we were going to see is, what does this Texas A&M defensive line look like against what I think could be one of the better offensive lines in the country? Texas A&M won the day, not only stopping the run, but getting after the passer. And I think what really impressed me, and we kind of talked about this heading in, Missouri didn't have a ton of opportunity to run the football because they just got down early. But when they did try to run the football, like, they didn't have much success. We talk about guys like Nick Scorton and what they can do rushing the passer. One of my favorite aspects about Nick Scorton is how good he is against the run as well. This is a guy that, he led the Big Ten last year in sacks. He also had 28 run stops last year. He is very good at setting the edge. And again, we talked about can Missouri have success running those outside zone concepts that they like to run against a really, really physical edge rusher, edge defender, I should say, in Nick Scorton. like we got our answer. They really couldn't get anything going on the ground, specifically in that first half there.
And they did what I think we said they needed to do, and that was create a lot of negative plays.
Yes.
And that really did set Texas A&M, or I shouldn't say Missouri, back because they couldn't really get to that run game. They couldn't really test those linebackers, and then you really started to see that pass rush tee off. And especially on the left side of the offensive line for Mizzou, they just didn't feel like they had any chance to deal with those Texas A&M rushers. So again, I think that in a sense went way in the favor of A&M, which was a little bit surprising to me. I thought Missouri would like challenge them in a sense, but really dominant by the front seven for A&M.
Well, you
More
picked
impressive for me is that pass pro or
you
pass
picked yeah you you picked Missouri because you thought they were going to be able to block up Texas A&M up front, which I don't blame you for doing like that. I thought Texas A&M dominated, again, just about as good of an offensive line as they're going to see. I think there are multiple guys on that Missouri offensive line that will be playing on Sundays over the next couple of months. Secondary is really good. Like, this is a passing attack that can hit the explosive play. And outside of that, I wouldn't even call it a busted cover. Just like Brady Cook extended the play, maybe a little bit of a bust, but that's just a good throw and catch that happens sometimes. Outside of that, this Texas A&M secondary that was just so bad last year is so much better this year. I mean, the throwing windows that Brady Cook had were almost non-existent. I mean, like the passes that they were able to complete, it's just like you got to tip your cap. That's a good throw to Luther Bird, and Luther Bird made a play. It started with Will Lee, who was obviously talking a little bit before the game. Certainly backed it up on the football field there.
And they're just they're so much deeper than what they were last year. I mean, they can rotate in 4 or 5 corners, really not feel like they miss a beat. And you obviously see with the reemergence of Dalton Brooks playing really, really good football. I think Marcus Rackless been a really good
awesome.
player.
He's awesome.
Does a good job in the pass, but also comes up, makes a lot of tackles in the run, plays more of an aggressive style than I think you've seen some Texas A&M secondary players play in the past. So I really like the way this A&M's group has shaken out in the secondary. And this was really their first real test. So I think, again, it looked good up to this point, but really that's just because nobody could deal with them up front. And not only Missouri didn't exactly deal with Texas A&M up front, but I still think you saw enough from this secondary.
Yeah.
This is a much different unit than what it was.
That was such an interesting position group heading into the season because you look at it and say, there's a ton of guys that I like. I can't even begin to tell you how it's going to look in the fall because there are so many new names. Look, we kind of trusted it. Like our kind of thought, at least my thought process on Texas A&M secondary was like, hey, I think Mike Elko is a phenomenal defensive coach. He's got a ton of talent in that secondary room. Like, to me, it's hard to see it not playing well. You made a really good point, though. They play so many different guys. I mean, they are just rotating and staying fresh, not only along the defensive line, but at the linebacker room and in the back end. One other shout out before we wrap up, Dale. I know who else I was just straight up wrong on. Scooby Williams. Like, Scooby Williams was legitimately just not good for Florida. And when Jay Bateman brought him over from Florida, I was like, all right, maybe I'm wrong about Scooby Williams in terms of, like, Jay Bateman obviously knows something about Scooby Williams that I don't know. I think Scooby Williams is playing phenomenal football for Texas A&M. They're using him.
As is Jaden Hill, another transfer from Florida that, like, you saw him at Florida, you're like, oh, why is A&M taking him? And then he's playing, like, way up a level, I'd say. So, again, you look, these transfers are developed way better. You look at the guys on the field, the offensive linemen in particular are playing at a different level than what they were playing last year. So, yeah, not only for this game this season, but just where the program's going. I think you're really excited if you're an A&M fan to see how much better guys are playing than what we saw from last year, whether they be transfers or homegrown talent.
Yeah, we know Texas A&M is going to get talent. Now, like, why were we so excited about Mike Elko? Like, yeah, he's not necessarily the most flashy head coach, but we know Texas A&M could recruit with me as the head coach, and I don't know, like, it's going to recruit itself. But go get a coach that is elite at developing and hiring a staff. That's Mike Elko. You're seeing it play out on the football field. Look, Dale, like, from what we saw, and I'm not trying not to overreact.
No, I still think this is a really good Missouri team, so
Agreed.
I'm completely ready to overreact. Like that, to beat the brakes off them in the way they just did it, yeah, I'm pretty comfortable. Like A&M, I think Notre Dame's frankly better than people think. I think obviously they should have won that game.
I would love to see that game again now. I would love to see that game run back now, man, because I would be taking Texas A&M 10 times out of 10. we'll cut it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, all the support means the world. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.